justice for all.
Renaissance. Okay. Well, thank you all for coming. Just a quick reminder of some of our decorum things here. So as we get started tonight, we should probably change this. We would like to keep things running smoothly, professionally, and show respect for everybody's time. So for anyone here tonight that would like to make a comment, please fill out, excuse me, a comment card. What do we have up here? Do we have any comment cards? They're out in the hallway. And then hand them to the town clerk. You do have two options. If you're addressing you can either hand it to her and have her read it into the record, or you can speak it yourself, right? Okay, if you're addressing a new item, please come up to the podium during the public comment period if you have a statement to make. Also note that the public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and to maintain decorum during the meetings, please do not speak from the audience. If you have questions or comments that arise during the course of the evening, you can see our town manager, Rita Adams, after the meeting. For those presenting this evening, when your item arises, please come to the podium and state your name and affiliation prior to beginning. We certainly appreciate your cooperation and hope you enjoy the meeting. All right, so our first thing is our announcements. Our next mayor and town council meeting is on March 11th, and that's going to be a special meeting to meet with the downtown Sykesville connection, maybe at the townhouse, right?
Nope, at the post office, at the tower.
Oh, we're meeting at the tower? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're meeting at the tower for that meeting. If anybody, over top the post office, just so you know. The election is May 7th. If you're interested in running but would like more information, please talk to the town clerk, Clary, or you can send her an email at kchain@sykesville.net. I'm sorry, town@sykesville.net.
Either one.
Nominations will be on at the March 25th council meeting. The deadline to register to vote is April 12th. And we have volunteer opportunities available on the Historic District Commission, the Police Auxiliary, and we're still looking for a crossing guard. So email town@sykesville.net for more information about volunteering for the town. All right, so public comments, they are limited to 3 minutes per person. There will be no discussion on the items not on the agenda, as they have not been made part of our required public notice for this meeting. But are there any public comments? Alrighty. All right, so reports, we'll get right into it. Treasurer's report. Evelyn, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. Evelyn Sweet, Town Treasurer. The December Treasurer's Report has been emailed to everyone. Some of the highlights from December are that the town received the proceeds from Warfield Development closing its checking account. Public Works also purchased a dump truck and plow and salt spreader during the month of December. And that's about it for the big ticket items during December. Does anybody have any questions?
I don't. Any questions? Julia's been not feeling well, so maybe she didn't get around to getting you her.
She had one question. You
Her
had
questions.
Yeah.
Did she take care of it? Okay, good.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Well then, thank you. Appreciate that. Do we have a motion to accept the treasurer's report?
motion to approve the December treasury report.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Treasurer's report's approved. Public safety report. Chief.
Good evening, everyone. Mike Spalding, Chief of Police.
Good evening.
All right, we're going to talk about the public safety report covering the period January 22nd through February 18th. During this time, you'll see we had a total of 645 events. I'll just highlight a few of those events. We had 25 assist other agency, 9 community policing initiatives, 25 incident reports, which are contained in pages 2, 3, and 4 of your package, 330 patrol checks, 64 traffic enforcement initiatives, again, for a total of 645 events. Any questions about any of the incident reports or the calls for service that we've attached to your package.
I don't know.
Letting us both off easy tonight.
Yeah.
Excellent job.
I would like to point out that we're very proud that Officer Eric Almenis completed his probationary period on February 15th, so he's now a full-fledged member of our department, and he's doing a phenomenal job, an outstanding job, and we're very lucky to have him. So next time you see him, please let him know, congratulate him on his technically promotion to Patrolman First Class. So,
Thanks, Chief.
you're welcome.
Any other questions? Okay, yeah, we're moving right along.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Okay. Council committee reports been submitted. All right, so our consent agenda is our next item. We are gonna table the minutes, so we're removing them from the consent agenda. So the only item that we'll be approving on there is 2019-10, approval of the pay rate for election supervisors. So is everybody okay with that?
Motion to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so the consent agenda is approved.
Could always break
All right, so that brings us to our first open session item. So we're going to make sure, does anyone have comment on this item? The item is, and this is for the public, so 2019-11, to consider and discuss on the Downtown Sykesville Connection Memorandum of Understanding, excuse me, joint meeting topics. Any public comment? Okay, so where do you want to start with that?
So this item is really just for you all to discuss, or to let us know, let staff know what it is that you want to discuss at this joint meeting. We want to try to put together some kind of agenda. The DSC has let me know some issues, or issues is maybe a strong word, some recommendations for the MOU. So the MOU will be an item to discuss on the agenda topic. But if there are any topics that you all would like to have discussed at that meeting as well, it would be helpful for us to try to organize that so the meeting can be as productive and efficient as possible. So it would just be you guys telling me what do you want on that agenda for the 11th.
Where do you want to start? On this end?
So I actually thought I was under the impression that we were going to be provided with those recommendations that have already been offered by the DSC at this meeting, so that would improve our efficiency for our meeting on the 11th. Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, maybe I did, because I thought that discussion was going to be spoken in the context of all 16 combined board members, that you all would talk about the MOU at that time.
Yeah, that was an epic fail in communication, apparently. I'll take
don't mind.
responsibility for that.
I don't mind, if you want, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, I
it
think-
fits within the scope of this.
Yes, that's what I would hope
That'd be
we would
helpful.
do. I don't know what our liaison thinks.
That would be helpful, definitely.
Okay, before we do that, are there any agenda topics that you all would like to add to the March 11th meeting,
Outside of the MOU.
outside of the MOU, yes?
So, yeah, where do we want to start? We were going to work our way up. Is there things you want to add to this agenda?
I don't know, not at this time that I have anything off the top of my head. I think maybe after we discuss, I don't know if the recommendations that were made regarding the MOU will lead to other topics or need for discussion.
Okay. So Julia sent over a couple items she wanted to, one of the things she wanted to talk about as topics was the events coordinator grant, ghost tour Facebook posting. I guess coordination, I don't know the best way to word that since we're just kind of talking about topics. I guess coordinating with the mayor and town council about issues is probably the best way to put it. And then understanding the role of the director in regards to board decisions. And then I guess the only thing I wanted to is to get some way to talk about communication and some misperceptions to clarify all that stuff and channels of communication that we need to have open. And that's it for me. That I can think of right now.
So if you all have the MOU, I can go down and discuss with you some of the recommendations that the DSC has presented. So under section 1, in regards to economic,
So did you send out the MOU for this? Because I really wasn't prepared to talk about
no, I did not send you
this
the
tonight.
MOU.
I mean, as far as like getting into the details of the MOU, because I didn't think we were going to talk about that.
Right, I did not either, so I did not send that to you.
So I'm a little concerned about trying to deal with
I can
all
just
this.
I can give you guys kind of what the issue is or what the modification or the concern is. Tonight, I was not under the impression that there would be a discussion on digging into what those issues are, but rather hearing them and adding them to the agenda in
And
the
then
context of
discussing
the
them with
MOU.
them.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could just give a list, that would be helpful.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah.
So the DSC did provide, they want to add some language around what DHCD says a Main Street program is. As well, they would like to include how the DSC defines the responsibilities of its Economic Development Committee. So they've spelled that out. That's under section 1. Under section 2, they made mention of my request to them to provide their financials before we disperse the funding to them that's outlined in the MOU. So we'll talk a little bit about whether or not we'll continue to do that and how we'll make sure they're matching their third as outlined in the MOU.
Oh, that was another topic that just came to mind too, is we need to have something, we need to talk about that.
Yes,
Some way is with accounting standards.
yes, we will.
Acceptable for that needs to be a topic we need to talk about.
Yep.
Because I asked Aretha to reach out to our accountant to find out what is going to be required for us to be what we need.
Sure.
Okay.
And forgive me, everyone at home and here, I am under the weather, so my voice is a little messed up and I'm coughing, so forgive me. Okay, so under item 2, they just want to update what the event listing, so there's no longer the Ice Fest, the Harvest Fest is now gone as well. So just making sure that we have an accurate listing of the events that we are sponsoring throughout the year. Under item 6, talking also about communication between the DSC and the mayor and town council, and whether or not that communication should continue to be direct between the DSC's director and the mayor town council, or if that should be more of a town manager, director of the DSC kind of communication. So just talking about communication. And also mentioning the semi-annual activity report. This is something that Julia also brought up a few months ago, making sure that we really outline, do we want the DSC to come before us and give a semi-annual report? Do we want it more often? Do we want it less often? Just making sure that whatever we put in here, we stay in compliance with. All right. Under number 7, just updating to make sure that the special event permit is reflected, the new one that was adopted. And then talking about some time frames around whether or not these conversations about special events for the following year should take place in November or earlier. Under section 9, we just need to clean up and make sure that the current process is reflected accurately, or discuss whether or not we need number 9 at all. Under section 10, excuse me. So this is a little more about the grants. One of their comments was, since the grants awarded by the Department of Housing and Community Development can overlap with the DSC initiatives and negatively influence the DSC's chances of award, could the town coordinate its grants plans with respect to this program for the DSC? So there have been years where we've done that facade grant and the DSC has kind of administered or managed that for us. And then there are other things that we can also use that grant for that are solely for the town. And so just coordinating to make sure that we're kind of making sure that we're considering the DSC when we talk about how we want to use that grant or how we want to apply for that grant for the following year. Under section 14, the DSC would like some guidance as to when the terms of the new MOU will be presented, so that'll be discussed at the March 11th meeting. And that is a conclusion of, sorry, Appendix A. All right, so this is more about the semi-annual activity reports that I've already spoken about. The annual action plan, that's something we need to work out. Is the town going to be involved in approving, determining whatever DSC's annual action plan, and how will that work? And also the facade improvement program. We just need to get together on our internal policies on who administers that and how. We had some issues come up this past year with compliance and reporting, and so just making sure that we're clear on what the town is doing versus what the DSC is doing. And then again, just taking out some other stuff. So really cleaning up the MOU and making sure that everything is as we want it to be and as we are currently acting out the processes.
Yeah, I agree. Since the first MOU, over these 2 years, things have evolved, and there are just things that need to be tightened up.
Okay.
So is the plan gonna be to make these changes and then it'll go into effect for the next 3 years? Or is it gonna make these changes happens right when we make the changes?
Well, the current MOU expires, I think, end of June.
Yes.
So by the time we get to it, it'll be time for the new one.
And you all can determine also the length of each of these, if you want to do longer than 3 years for continuity, if you want to do shorter than 3 years for some reason. So that's, in the context of the conversation for the MOU, we really need to talk about not just what is already here, but what have we learned from this? What do we want to improve upon? What do we want to modify and change? I think this should really be an open conversation. We don't have to stick to 1 or 2 areas of this MOU because they have had an opportunity to get through a whole year to see what works and what doesn't work. Some of this stuff just may not be applicable. So we really need to make some common sense. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's on both sides. I mean, I think this
Absolutely.
is from both the town and the downtown Sykesville connection, seeing what's working, what's not, what needs to be improved, what can be tightened up, what can be. At the same time, I think since we're learning so much, I'm remiss to lock this in for a long period of time, at least until we get a couple of years under our belt, because of the very fact that we're learning things each year. So, I mean, at least until we get maybe through a couple of year period to get some of the things worked out. Just seems to me like it would be better to have it available to, I don't know.
Revise.
Yeah, to look at. I mean, at least until we're kind of, okay, I think we got a pretty good document, and then lock it in for 5 years or something. I mean, but that's up to you guys. I don't know how you want to. You'd hate to find something bad in there and be stuck with it for 5 years later and say, wow, I wish we would have left that on the table to be changed annually or something. I don't know, but that's just a suggestion. We can see how the discussion goes.
I think minimum 2 years. Annually.
Yeah, what did we do last time? Was it 2?
It ended up being 18 months because it took so long to.
So yeah, 24 months, I think that's reasonable, you're right. I don't think that's unreasonable to go 2 years. I mean, I think if you'll find out, whatever that time frame is, we're comfortable and they're comfortable with saying, okay, that's a good time frame.
I think part of that too had to do with council turnover, because it'll kick in at the next
Every 24
election
months or
cycle, and there's gonna be a different
something.
council every time, so.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, I think that's something you can flush out.
Yeah, we can flush it out. I was just saying it'd be better to have it available to make adjustments.
I was kind of not caught off, I was caught off guard when you started reading a list of agenda items to be added, so I wasn't in a place to take any notes. Julia's suggestions, if you could read them again for me, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, so how did we word this? Because the one we worded, can you read them again?
Sure, I can give you my abbreviated notes.
Okay.
So, event coordinator grant, ghost tour and Facebook posting, coordinating with the mayor and town council on issues to come before council, I think that's what it was. The role of the director in regards to board decisions.
Yeah, and the implementation of board decisions, right?
Right, and then the mayor said communication and misperception.
Misperceptions.
Sure.
I mean, because there's obviously some misperceptions going on. I want to get those cleared up at this meeting.
And then I've just added general, Councilmember Link, MOU.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any need to elaborate on any of that right now? Because some of that is, two of those were still a little unclear to me as to what the actual topic would be.
Because she's not here,
Right.
I'm not in a
Concerned about-
position to elaborate. And really, my conversation with the mayor was, I would recommend that we actually don't elaborate. I think the time to elaborate will be with all 16.
Certainly, I just think for the members of the DSC that are present here this evening, and for at least myself to understand, for anyone to prepare or to know what it is that
Yeah,
those topics
unfortunately-
mean, I guess.
Sure.
With her not being here, that makes it difficult,
Sure.
so. Okay.
All right.
Any other comments?
No, that sounds like
Okay.
there's a lot of things to go over. That'd be good.
Well, we're looking forward to a productive meeting with you guys and really to try to work out and get everything kind of squared away and then hopefully have a enjoyable next year or 2 or 3, whatever that comes out to be. So thank you for all the work on it and all your patience with us as we work through the process. And we look forward to seeing you on the 11th. All right. So that being all done, I believe, we're going to move on to the next item, which is 2019-12. And does anyone have comment on this item? This is to consider, discuss, and act on appointing members to the Board of Election Supervisors. Did Mark make it in? We're missing one of our...
He's an alternate.
He's an alternate.
He's an alternate. Okay, all right. So, any comment on this? I know we have Carmen here tonight. Who's the other one?
The other
Carmen,
two, right-
Maryanne,
right
and
there.
is it Trevor? Trevor.
All right, great. So we have Carmen, Maryanne, and Trevor here tonight. So do we need to officially swear them in?
Yes, sir.
We have to do a
First you
motion
need
and-
to,
Oh, yes.
I make a motion to appoint Carmen McAvoy, Maryanne Stickler, and Trevor Evans to the Board of Election Supervisors for a 2-year term, expiring February 28, 2021, and Mark Dyer as an alternate to the Board of Election Supervisors.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you so much for being willing to serve, by the way. So,
Get a raise out of
so
it.
do we need to get them to raise your right hand and swear them in kind of thing? Okay. Should we get everybody to come up? You need to read. Should we like give one of these, yeah, next one, or are we just gonna have them read? You gonna read them all together, one at a time?
Then you say,
Together?
get it in the
Oh, out 83.
83.
All right, so I guess what, raise your right hand. And then just try to read these together. See if you can do that.
I, Carmen McAvoy, do swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and that I will bear faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of Maryland and support the Constitution and laws thereof, and that I will, to the best of my skill and judgment, diligently and faithfully, without partiality or prejudice, execute the office of Board of Election Supervisors according to the Constitution and laws of the state.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Do you need to sign this one or?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll sign you. Let me get you, do you need to sign too? Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys need to sign on your names and then we'll sign. Thank you so much for,
Thanks for doing that.
yes, we very
Appreciate it.
much appreciate that.
That ends up being a long day.
Yes. But you just got a fat raise, so,
You got a huge raise minimum
yeah,
wage now.
yeah, I think you're up to like minimum wage or something.
10, 15 and more.
And we might get you something to eat. I think we get you some food too.
Sure, that's time to.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
So thank you so much. All right. Okay, that brings us to our next item, item 5. Does anyone have comment on this item? This is 2019-1, presentation of the town community engagement efforts. So we have a little presentation here of all the things that we've been doing. And I want to thank our staff for doing a great job. Carrie for kind of taking charge of the Facebook Live, and Aretha for coming up with some of the ideas for it. So that's been really awesome. And then some of the other efforts you guys have been taking, I really do appreciate it. It's really helped get the word out and keep people going, so thank you.
In just a moment, we're going to try to center this a bit better. Let's see here. That's a bit better. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Carrie Cheney, Town Clerk. I'm going to be talking about our community engagement efforts. As you said, we're on Facebook Live tonight, and also the Community Media Center is here filming us. It's being live streamed on their website, and it's also available on YouTube on their video archive. So our main ways of communication with the public, we have our newsflash system, which is our email-based system. We use that primarily for emergency type notifications and also meetings. So anything like road closures due to events, due to trees being down, due to paving, things like that. And then we post our meeting agendas there too. Facebook is for just about everything that we can come up with. Twitter it's automatically whatever we post on Facebook goes onto Twitter. We don't even have to do anything. It's just set up that way. Our website is pretty much a catch-all also. Not as many of the outreach things that we do on Facebook end up on the website, but more than what we newsflash end up there. And then Nixle is the police department's platform, thank you, system, spacing on some words, that they use for emergency situations. Our general rule of thumb is if it goes out in a Nixle, it's getting sent out in a newsflash, getting put on the website, and getting put on Facebook. And then from there, it just keeps flowing down. If it's a newsflash, it's on the website and Facebook. The website, it also goes on Facebook, and then Facebook is just our catch-all for everything.
So before you move on, let's tell people how to get on all these.
That's one of our slides.
Is that coming up? All right, great.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, because want to make sure we get everybody to get all these contact pieces. Go ahead. All right, so go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. So our newsflash system, we reach about 635 people right now with our emails. That does include people that are outside of town, and all of the staff, actually. So that's our email system. Like I said, Facebook. These numbers were as of February 15th. So on Facebook, we're actually now up to 2,170 followers. With actually, it's about 2,185 that actually follow the page, which means they get our updates, but they don't necessarily like our page. Twitter, we're at 1,635, and the website, we get about 105 visits per day. So to get on all of these, for Newsflash, you just have to send an email to town@sykesville.net, and I'll get you all set up for our Newsflash system. Our Facebook page is Town of Sykesville. Our Twitter is just Sykesville. The website, you can just go on whenever you want and check it out, or you can get emails from that, and that's our Notify Me system. It's a button to the left side of the screen as you get on there, and you can sign up and it'll email you. And then for Nixle, you text our zip code, 21784, to 888777.
And that's a really awesome system, so I wanted to thank the chief for doing that, because that thing works great, and it's simple. Got to do that, especially for emergency stuff. It's critical.
So I'm just gonna show you real quick on our website here. Maybe real quick. Here we go. So this is our Notify Me button. If you click on that, you can sign up for any of the notifications that we have. In general, our notifications would be right here. These are the ones that they go out like a news flash, but they're also posted front and center. And then we have this over here. That is our more long-term announcements. Right now, it's about our military memorial. We're going to switch it up soon and start putting information about the election in there. Not sure what we're going to put there after that, but we'll come up with something. Let's go back. Let's see. Can I click on it? Our calendar page has our entire year calendar. So you can see we have Mayor and Council tonight, Historic District tomorrow, and Spark later this week. We also have any townhouse closings that we have on there, any events that might be coming up, we put on there. And you can get email notifications from this as well, if you want. And then our Public Works page. So we put changes for holidays to trash schedule at the top of our page here. And I left this one up a bit longer just so you could see it. There wasn't a change because of President's Day. So we had that on there, that there wasn't any change to trash. Now, if there was a change to trash, we would also put it on our front page so it went out as an email blast as well. Okay. So for our website, for 2 years, over 2 years, we've had almost 86,000 page visits. The average person leaves after they visit one website, or one page on our website. And this does include the staff and you all and anybody else who goes on and looks. It's everybody. Let's see. So for Facebook, this graph is showing the total views that we've had on our page per day from February 2017 through 2019. And just this past week, we had an additional 6.3 thousand people that saw our posts. So it is really going up. We are trying to maintain the base that we have created now and keep reaching out to people.
You've done a great job, and you've gotten some really good
Thank you.
feedback for that, so thank you.
Thank you.
Even some other towns have commented on it, so.
Awesome. Some other fun Facebook stats. I had to find the best picture. So for Municipal Government Works Month, we posted 10 videos of our staff and of council members who came in and did interview videos. They were viewed almost 2,000 times total. And we haven't just stopped there with showing people who our staff is, who our staff are. Showing the staff off. Recently, we posted a picture of Derek with his very long titled position that he now has. And that gained a lot of views, actually. What did we decide? Second most liked? That's it. Second most liked post on our Facebook page. Let's see, since January 1st to the 15th, we reached 23,326 people with just 26 posts. Since then, like I said, an additional 6.3 some odd thousand people were reached with our trash post. We posted a picture of our snowplows in action. And then we also occasionally boost posts, which it does cost money, but it allows us to reach a broader audience. The last one was our a more targeted audience, yes. The last one was our infographic for 714, and we could actually set a radius of where we wanted, or people within that radius would see our post. So we got an additional 1,600 people viewing that post from that. And then, so with our Facebook Live posts, so far they've been viewed almost 3,000 times. And this graph is actually of all of our videos, so it includes our Municipal Government Works Month videos down there in November. But prior to that, we had maybe 3 videos on our Facebook page. So there really wasn't much before then. But just over a 2-month period, not 2 months, 4-month period there, our videos were viewed for over 7,000 minutes total. And you can see it is spiking around our Facebook Live times. The 2 public hearings, this is our December meeting and our November meeting, which is when we started. Twitter, it's I don't actually go on there very often since it does things automatically. But our tweets in the month of, or from January to February there, reached almost 5,000 people. So that's doing pretty good. And our Facebook Live videos, last I saw, they're linked to our Twitter, so people can click on them and start watching whenever they want.
Unfortunately, I haven't been tweeting for the town.
Not yet.
Oh, God.
And then, so we've also been doing outreach in other ways, not just through social media. And one of those is our summer bingo, the original best ever summer bingo that we are bringing back this year. It's going to be improved from last year. We're learning more. Look for it come June 1. We'll see what we can do.
That was awesome. So yeah, we're going to get more people fired up with it. And
More
now that
people,
everybody's watching your post and your thing, it's going to be off the charts.
Yeah, you better play, people on Facebook. They're not watching it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Better play. So yeah, that'll be coming for this summer. It allows not just for community involvement, but it's actually showing people our parks, showing people the different. We had squares on there for go visit a Main Street merchant and go visit a Main Street restaurant, so it gets them down to Main Street. One of them was find a little free library, which a lot of people didn't even realize we had more than one of those. So that's exciting. I'm hoping more people play, more people realize all of the cool things we have in town. And then so, excuse me, some other outreach options or other outreach ideas that we have. We had the signs go up for the 7/14 Sandusky hearing. That seemed to work pretty well. We've been at, so far, the Harvest Festival and the Craft Beer Fest with a booth and balloons and our volunteer sign, trying to get more people to sign up as volunteers. Nothing's come from that yet, but I'm hopeful. We'll get somebody at the...
300 balloons.
We did. We did. We didn't get any volunteers, but 300 balloons.
A lot of happy kids, though.
A lot of happy kids, including you, Mr. Mayor.
Helium balloons are fun. That's all I can say.
It was so much fun. And a trash truck.
Yeah.
No volunteers yet. I'm hopeful. Wine Fest. We'll see where we are. Get some more.
And a lot of positive feedback on the public input signs around town as well that Public Works put out for us. So it was a great engagement tool.
Yeah, I think that worked the best. But maybe not.
Any questions?
Any questions?
No, very good.
Yeah, no, you've done a great job. You brought a whole new energy to this effort, and I wanted to thank you for that because I think it's so important. And thanks, Aretha, for, I know you guys have been coordinating, and Aretha's been coming up with some great ideas, but your implementation and taking the projects and running with them have been spectacular. So it's been a breath of fresh air, so thank you. Can't thank you enough, and I know people really do appreciate it. Being able to get the information without always having to come to the meetings and staying informed and giving them these different options, so thank you. Any other questions for Carrie?
It was awesome. Thanks, Karen.
Yep, thank you so much. Great presentation there, too.
Thank you.
All right, so item number 6. So I'll ask up front, does anyone have any comment on this item? This is 2019-14, and this is presentation of the town's Fiscal year 2020 capital improvement plan. Any comments on it? None yet? Okay.
Thank you.
There you go.
Good evening. The staff has submitted their FY20 capital improvement requests, and we've compiled those into a slideshow presentation, and I'm going to go over that with you tonight. These are the goals of our capital improvements program. We need to maintain existing assets to avoid deterioration, provide funding for existing town procurement policy. We need to have proper management of stormwater maintenance ponds, improve the parks for community use, and we have discovered that we can use future HUR funds for new sidewalks in our town.
As well as roads, so that's a combination.
Yes,
yeah,
as
so
well as roads. We have not,
sidewalks adjoining roads.
yes, we have not used them for sidewalks in the past, but we are authorized to do that, so we have considered some of the spending in that area, as you will see in a few slides. Okay, that is a little bit different on this version.
So the first block is townhouse funds, right? And that one is, I don't have it in color.
So the townhouse is at 4% of the total pie of the CIP. The streets and sidewalks take up about 16%. Public safety is at 4%. Public works is at 2%. Truck and sanitation vehicles are about 20%. Parks and recreation comes in at our highest at 38%. Main Street downtown is at 1%, and stormwater management ponds are at 16%. So the largest portion of that pie is the $435,000. Sorry, Evelyn, that's okay. You go ahead. Yeah, we're very sorry, guys. For some reason, it's showing up different here. But we'll manage and get through as best as possible. I think that the content and information is the same. It's just the view, for some reason,
Yes.
is a little. We have a new laptop, and maybe that's messing it
I
up.
guess it's a
So,
different version. But anyway, we've laid out our historical capital spending for years FY17 through FY20. As you can see in FY20, we have larger requests than we've had in the past. Both sources of funding, we are asking for increases over FY19. The general fund, we're asking for a 300% increase over FY19. For other funds, we have a 258% increase over FY19. Some of the other funds are things like funding for Warfield for the Public Projects Fund and that kind of thing. And we have a lot more grant funding coming up in FY20 than we've had in previous years.
that also reflects the increase in the highway user revenue and the fact that we can use them for additional things like sidewalks. So we can go ahead and kind of speed up our sidewalks projects since that funding is now available to us.
So our discussion overview will go over the different areas as follows: townhouse, streets and sidewalks, public safety, public works, sanitation, equipment, parks and recs, downtown Main Street, and stormwater ponds management. I did want to mention to the staff that if your capital request was under $5,000, it will not be in here. It will be submitted through the regular budget process. The town's policy has put that amount, that threshold amount of $5,000 as the minimum amount for our capital improvement spending. How do you go back, Carrie? Right click. Back. That back? Anyway, under the townhouse,
hate getting new laptops, man, it never works out.
Oh, you have it, Carrie. Go, just go forward one. There you go.
Okay, staff has requested some spending in the area in the townhouse at these levels for the next 5 years. There are some updates that are needed just to be ADA compliant. There are some safety issues. There's floors that need to be refinished. There's old windows, just things to bring the townhouse up to a more efficient level. Out in FY22, we are anticipating needing a boiler replacement. That system is over 30 years old. Next, we have the streets and sidewalks. We are anticipating a revenue level of $184,000 for FY20, and we propose to put $120,000 into street repairs, $34,000 into sidewalk repair and replacement, and to set $30,000 aside for the sidewalk master plan that will connect some of the neighborhoods to the downtown Sykesville. Next, we have the police department's requests. They are per our prior procurement policy, they are slated to purchase a new vehicle in FY20. We have increased the prices to reflect the rise in vehicle costs. Also, the police department has requested to replace a computer in one of their cars. The computer has gone faulty. So we expect some of this to be funded by the state aid for police protection, which runs around $50,000 per year, and some of it will be funded by the general fund.
Very nominal amount, I might add. Most of that is taken care of by the state aid for police.
Yes. Now, next we have Public Works. In FY20, Public Works has requested a debris mover, kind of a leaf vacuum system, and an aluminum truck bed. They've also projected out some of the items that will be needed in a few years as items wear out.
Going a little crazy in FY21.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Those replacement schedules, they're trying to stay on target with those to make sure that we're not in a situation. This year, we were in a situation where we had to procure a new snowplow and truck in the middle of snow season. And luckily, we were able to find one. But really, while the numbers look astronomical, and they are above what has come before, we're really trying to get to a place where we can be on track and be proactive about maintaining our assets and infrastructure in a way that will help us keep costs down in the long run.
Wanted to say thanks, Derek, by the way. You did a great job acquiring that truck in a timely fashion and making a good deal for us, so thanks.
Yes.
Mark was a big help too.
Yeah, and him and Mark Onheiser both worked together on that. It was kind of an emergency, man, so thank you.
Yes, the first item in FY20 is the truck that we actually just purchased in December. We borrowed from the Capital Reserve Fund, so we will need to pay that back in FY20. We are also anticipating needing a new garbage truck in the near future. That's been estimated at $187,000. Next, we have Parks and Recreation. In FY20, we anticipate the Burkett Park Playground and Pathway, a big major renovation to that. We either already have received a $75,000 grant or we are in the process of obtaining it, and we will also need approximately $85,000 from the general fund. Also in FY20, we have Cooper Park Splash Pad that we would like to add. Funds coming from the Warfield Public Projects Funds and also from grant funding. Finally, in FY20, we have renovation of the apple butter factory. We are looking for grant funding for that as well.
So just to kind of explain this slide a little bit, you want to go back, Evelyn?
Yes.
On the,
I want to.
Yes, I will.
I want to, but I can't. So, excuse me, on the Burkett Playground and Pathway, we have already received the $75,000 grant for that. And so there was about 150 in prior years that was slated for the Burkett Park Playground and Pathway, and we've scaled that back to an $85,000 ask from the general fund because of that grant that we have received. So in essence, that if you were to approve the previous amount that was put in there, this is actually a cost savings thanks to the grant funding that our circuit rider was able to get us. And Cooper Park Splash Pad, this is something that we talked about in the strategic plan as a unique way to draw folks to town, a different type of, a quality of life aspect on drawing folks to town, in addition to the economic development things we do to get people to come and experience the community. And so that $100,000, while in the general fund, it can only be used for things like Cooper Park. From that dedicated Warfield amount, there was $200,000 in that, and we're requesting half of that for the Cooper Park expansion. And then the rest of that will come from a grant that we won't find out if we got until April? April. We will get it though, I have a feeling. And then the apple butter factory is really wishful thinking, to be quite honest. We are working with the county. We're still trying to get the parking lot in. The hope is that that will be in by the end of spring or start of summer at this rate. But I'm going to start drilling them on this apple butter factory because it's really unused potential right now that we're missing out on. And so Jared is already seeking out grant funding that we may be able to use if Howard County's willing to partner with us. So while these numbers look big, the majority of this really is not coming from our general fund. This is coming from creative financing, really being proactive and seeking out grants and partnerships that could help these things happen.
And the parking lot's definitely going in.
It's been approved.
So they told us
It's been
they
approved.
were meeting about 2 weeks ago. They said within the next 2 weeks, they were gonna be meeting, that's been about 2
Well,
weeks.
they
maybe a
have
little more.
approval, so right now,
Right,
those
meeting with
meetings.
contractors.
Contractors, exactly. So it has been approved, the funding has been dedicated, so right now, the weather is the excuse for everything, so it's happening,
Okay,
but
thanks.
when is that?
It is happening, and I think one of the ideas of this was to try to leverage some funds, both with grants and other things, to help incentivize Howard County as well to work with us, that we're bringing some resources to the table, and then see if we can partner with them to help us as well. So there's ongoing efforts with that also. But one thing I did have a question on, and I know we'll comment on this, I don't want to stop you while you're still going through. Do you want to come back and talk about these things and keep going?
However you prefer is fine.
Just on the park thing, are we coordinating our program open space funds with one of these projects? Or when is our cycle for that? Are we in the next one, or did we get it on this?
So the POS grant was, which one was that, Jared?
We sent in our application.
Okay, so we were on this cycle. Okay, great, all
And
right.
we are trying to use that for Cooper Park.
Okay, all right, great, all right, thanks.
And we were denied that grant last year, so we're hoping that puts us in better standing. Is
different
that the
ER
one?
grant.
Different? Thank you.
Oh, I thought it was the same one.
I did too. Yeah, the
Community
play
Parks and
pods.
Playgrounds was the one we
Okay.
denied.
Great.
Versus program open space.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to the next section. Downtown Main Street, there is some concrete work to be done outside of the post office. Another request is for gazebo lighting for the gazebo on Main Street and receptacles at that location. And then we have some things out in future years that were part of streetscape, I believe.
Well, no longer streetscape, but I'm sorry, I keep talking after you going forward. But the out years for 21 and 22 for the Main Street infrastructure, as you guys know, streetscape is all but finished. We likely will not see that funding in the near future. So the mayor and I have been in communication with the county and the state on what can be done to address some of the infrastructure issues that we know are present on Main Street. And so this is really just kind of trying to plan for the hope that the state will be participating in updating some of that infrastructure with us. And this is to show them that we are committed financially to doing our part if they're willing to help us. So that's what FY21 and 22 are about.
So we did have a meeting with them, by the way, too, and Commissioner Rothstein's here tonight. So thank you for helping us with that. But and we got some upcoming meetings, and they did respond back and say that they're gonna schedule a meeting with us to discuss the significant infrastructure issues on Main Street. So there's a lot. I mean, we saw the videos with all the rotten pipes, so I just wanted to touch on that it's a serious issue, and I think there's going to be a significant amount of work that needs to be done there, but we're working on that.
Okay, moving on to the next section, we have stormwater management. The Springfield Avenue Stormwater Management Pond is in FY20 to be funded by other sources other than our general fund. I believe that's a Warfield Public Projects Fund. We also have 2 other stormwater ponds around $30,000 each that need to be cleaned out. And then the middle one, the $40,002, is the required Carroll County stormwater funding that we were required to do.
And just a little bit on the stormwater pond update. That $60,000 is a high priority because we're on the county schedule for them to help us with getting that cleaned up and brought up to standard. And so our contribution would be $30,000 of that. And so it would be really important for us to be able to do that next fiscal year so we can stay on their schedule and not miss out on that funding.
Which two?
That is it.
Windswept and it's called Carroll Fields actually, but it's one's Windswept, and then the one up here at Village. Those are the ones that they determined will provide the best impervious reduction, and they're funding the engineering and whatnot for them. So.
And the 80,000 is really for what we anticipate for upsizing some of the pipe in relation to the work that the state's going to need to do on Springfield. So this is at the entrance, as we're all aware of, where Carl and Brown come down into Springfield, and we get all that issue in the water. So our plan is to set this money aside, and that's why it's part of the improvements really that we consider at Cooper Park in reference to the Warfield project. So that's why we were kind of targeting that. Those funds are targeted for improvements at Cooper Park, and that was one of the things that we had talked about there. So we're hoping just to be able to, hopefully when they come and fix these pipes, we can tie in all that stormwater into the Springfield and finally address that problem to some degree. Hopefully really all of it.
All of it,
yeah. So, okay.
Okay. Moving on to the next slide. One other project that was submitted was land surveys. That was submitted by our Special Projects Department. We're not asking for it in FY20, but we have some properties in Sykesville that are backing up to town property, and so
And encroaching upon.
So we are looking to get some survey work done and do what is necessary, not next fiscal year, but during the following 2 fiscal years. And those are what was requested for this year. Okay, this is another slide that looks a little bit, it was prettier before, but anyway. It was correct before, too. The general fund,
So I'll do it, Evelyn, if you can't see. The general fund, the funding breakdown from the general fund, this CIP for FY20 is requesting $505,720, while from other funds would come $654,062. So 56, while these are both huge numbers, the majority of this would come from other funds and not impact the general fund.
okay, and then we'd like to go over some proposed funding policies and the capital improvement project characteristics. The staff would like to amend the policy or create a policy where 30% of property tax revenues are assigned to be spent on capital improvements. We currently don't have a policy regarding that, and we kind of hold the capital improvement spending down. Every year that I've been here, I've said, well, last year we spent around $300,000 and things like that. So now we have a large balance of unrestricted funds as a result of that, and if we were to tie some of that spending into the property tax revenue, that issue would probably resolve itself. The town's current capital improvement policy is that projects exceeding $5,000 and involving the following are considered to be capital improvements. The project must involve new construction, reconstruction designed to gradually and systematically replace an existing system on a piecemeal basis, replacement of a major component of an existing facility, or acquisition of land or structures. It involves the town funding in whole or in part, or involves no town funds, such as the intersection out there at 32 that was done quite a few years ago. But anyway, but it's the town's responsibility for implementing such as, and also in the case of 100% grant-funded projects. It involves skills and construction needs beyond those needed for general repairs and maintenance.
So I would like to touch on bullet point 1, because this is a significant proposed change to what we've done in the past. This 30% of property tax revenue, I want to be clear, is not a spending policy, but is a funding policy. Currently, we do not have a funding policy or a funding trigger mechanism tied to our capital improvement project. That's not industry best standard. Most communities have that. Some of them are less than 30%, some of them might be a little bit more, and they might be tied to a different revenue source. My proposal here is that we tie it to our property tax revenue, because our property tax revenue is our biggest revenue generator. And so when that fluctuates, we should automatically fluctuate how we're addressing our assets and our infrastructure. So say we have 5 great years and then we go through another recession. Automatically, instead of having to make those very difficult decisions about what we're going to cut or what we're going to delay, we've already begun to create a CIP fund that is self-sustaining. And so when the recession hits, if one hits, it automatically goes down, tied to our biggest revenue generator. Now, also keeping in mind, just because we dedicate 30% of that property tax revenue per year doesn't mean we're spending it every year. We're not going to manufacture needs here. Right now, we are behind the 8 ball in a lot of areas, hence this 320% increase we're requesting tonight. This will help us get up to date, stay up to date, and keep it tied to revenue that we know that we're having to come into the community year over year. So I would be more than willing to answer questions about that. I figured that would be a huge topic of discussion this evening.
Rather than a set number, should it be a minimum percentage? That way, if one year it could be higher. The way it reads right now would have to be exactly 30%, as
Sure.
opposed to, if you make it a minimum percentage, then it can be increased if necessary.
Sure. So the reason why I put something very specific instead of having something that could increase was because I don't want us to get into a situation where we cannot easily anticipate what the impact will be to our general fund for our CIP. So by saying it will be 30% every year, we know that our revenues fluctuate maybe 3 to 5% a year, sometimes less, sometimes maybe a little bit more, as opposed to saying up to 30 and then one year we're doing 10 and then the next year we're coming back with a 300% increase, because we haven't been funding properly or because the will of the council may feel some kind of way about pet projects. This really keeps the CIP funding protected, kind of from different wind shifting, and really gives it its own mechanism so that staff can make sure that we're keeping up with what needs to happen. Now, I'm not saying that's not a good idea, what you just asked here, but I think providing a solid percentage would really keep us on track. At least for the next 5 years, I would propose.
Yeah, I wouldn't have gone as low as a minimum of 10. I would say
Yeah.
like a minimum 25 that would give it flexibility to move up. I never would go as low as a minimum of
Sure.
10 because that would just,
Yeah, that was a little drastic.
yeah.
One of my concerns with this, again, was the fact that, and I talked to Aretha about this, is that I worry that, there's that manufactured need, so government has a way of saying, oh God, we got this money, if we don't use it, we gotta spend it, so she assured me that that's not gonna be the case, that this is a funding mechanism, but not necessarily a spending policy, so that the council would still have latitude in determining the needs. So if you're feeling like there's other priorities that year, we could say, hey, even though we've set this at 30%, if the needs aren't, as pressing, we could defer things again. So that was my concern, is I don't want people to be like, yeah, that truck's not really shot, but we could buy a new one, so let's just buy a new one, so that was my concern. But she's assured me that's not the way it's gonna go, so I'm a little more comfortable now with making that a target. I don't think we would ever need to go higher or minimum. I think we've been spending less than that, well below that, really, as a rule for capital. But some years real high because you buy a trash truck or a police car all in the same year, and then other years that's not there. So it goes like that. Yeah.
And to that point, because we know that we're not going to likely spend the full 30% every year, once this is transferred to the CIP, that's dedicated restricted funding for CIP projects only. So now we're creating a fund balance, so when something major comes up, like a $187,000 trash truck, we're not having to spend all of that money from that year's general fund, because we have some reserves, hopefully, in our CIP fund that will go to that. So the impact won't be so great year after year. It'll be something that we are saying we are planning for this. The CIP is truly a planning document, and we haven't quite been using it in that way. And this will help us start to do that as well.
Historically speaking, there's been high priority, as identified as high priority CIP projects that have just continuously been deferred year over year over year. They keep getting pushed back, and I think that's evidence that because we don't have that fund balance available that we can depend upon. So
Actually, we've done really good. We've done really good over the last several years, but in the past that has happened. Yes.
historically, yes, it has.
You had implemented, and we've all approved it, where
Remember the shed? I'm sorry.
where you have set aside a percentage each year into a restricted fund? Or
Right. So good point. Yeah. So we did have the capital
Stabilization.
Right, no,
stabilization
you're right.
reserve.
That's a little different than the
Yeah.
CIP.
Right, but it's the same concept.
But
It's
that's
the
a
same
minimum.
concept, exactly.
Right. And that's really what I wanted to trigger with that, is a minimum, because at the time we didn't have any money
Right.
saved. And so as part of this budget coming up, I'm looking at ways to maybe reduce revenue for us. I just want to throw that out there. But at the same time, increasing our capital fund to maybe double that, to get that to maybe as part of these conversations. So we're going to talk about that as a whole picture and package. So maybe as part of that is maybe doubling that, so we'll have a decent chunk of money in capital reserves initially, and then with Aretha's plan to switch it, it should be well funded going forward. So we should start off with more and then be able to replenish it. And then certainly it's less stressful, I think, for staff, knowing that there's funds available to accomplish the goals that you're trying to do. Versus what happens when that wears out and we don't have any money to buy it, or it's gonna be a lot of drama to try to get something replaced.
So where did the 30% come? Did that come from about how much we're spending, or did that come from like best practice at a couple of towns, or?
So I've seen it anywhere from 20 to 30%. The reason I kind of got on 30 was because of this year. And no, honestly, I think we have some catch up and I think next year, I heard from you all that you want a master plan done for the community. We have no idea what that's going to shake out, and most of the stuff that does come out of that master plan will be a capital improvement project. And so making sure that we're able to implement that effectively over the next 5 to 10 years is important. And so that's kind of how I got to 30.
Okay.
And just kind of when Evelyn and I were doing the math, our ask is over 30 for FY20. But again, it's because I think we're behind on some things, and we're really trying to proactively identify things that will not only keep us up to date with our infrastructure, but also increase that quality of life component that I talked about too.
Okay.
My only other concern is with the Warfield townhomes going to be coming online soon. Yes, it's going to generate more revenue, but we're going to need another police officer. We're going to need another public works employee. We may even need to add another staff person in the town hall. Those are expenses we're going to have to cover. So I'm concerned about locking in a set amount of money to one place where we might need some of that for something else.
So that's a good point. So how would the flexibility happen with some of that stuff then? So maybe we could tweak this number down a little bit for maybe make it 30 this year and 25 the subsequent years. I mean, I don't know. I'm just asking, how do you address that concern?
So that is something.
Well, I think what Leo started out the whole conversation saying that
The
maybe we start with
revenue increases.
yeah.
That's exactly.
As the
That's
revenue-
exact right.
I thought you were talking about like a minimum of 25, but it could
No,
be
I
higher.
think the point is the revenue overall, the tax base is increasing. And so that was a consideration when looking at dedicating funding to this area outside of the operating budget. However, with new things, really what typically will trigger, that new staff need are new people. New people bring new revenue. And so it'll be made up in that way. I don't foresee the 30% impacting our staffing needs. We know now today we need more staff. But we kind of have to wait until we get more revenue, and that's coming. And that 30% will only be a small portion of, I think, what we really will need. Now, if we need to go back and revisit this isn't a policy that you approve and has to stay that way forever. We may, find out we do need to reduce it to 25, and you guys will be able to
Well, and
revisit
again, I
that.
think there may be a way to handle this too, is to do it like we did the other stuff as a resolution where it's,
It expires.
well, it's easily resolved if you
Sure.
need to amend it
Revise
versus, versus like a charter amendment or
Sure.
something. You can do it as a resolution, so if we need to change it to 25 but we can look at that. That's a really good point that you bring up. So I think as part of the budget process, we should look at some of these flows and see
Absolutely.
how that'll affect the whole picture.
Yeah, that's a part of the budget planning process.
Yeah, okay. So I'm glad you thought about that, thanks. Any other questions from this for right now?
I did like it. That's a good idea, just tying it to the major revenue source of the town.
All right, well, great job, Evelyn, thank you.
Yes, I would like to publicly thank Evelyn for all of her hard work
Yeah.
on the presentation and just on the budget, the CIP overall, just our finances. She's a really good steward of our funds, and
I agree.
when I bounce these crazy ideas off of her, she doesn't throw me under the bus and say this was all Aretha's idea. So she's fantastic.
I do have one question. Debris mover, is that like a street sweeper or a leaf vacuum, or so it's a leaf vac? So it would be used in the parks arena, or would it be our streets? Both.
Right now in the fall, we moved all the leaves out of the park, blowing them somewhere, just suck them up and move them somewhere else.
And then, but with respect to residential areas,
Mostly the inlets, sucking the leaves out of the inlets and whatnot.
because they all start somewhere else.
Yeah.
in everyone's yard from everyone's trees. And
Sure.
I've been, proposing for years that we have a means to keep our inlets clean and our gutters free of debris, that we have a service that would allow us to get those brought to the edge of our lawns and swept up, and then not.
The best method is the yard waste truck that runs around twice a week.
Yes.
Every week for 6
Yes.
months.
Yeah.
So you
Try to
pick
pick
them
up
up
all
and you
these.
stick them
Yeah.
We did so that's a good point, again, that you brought up too. So me and Derek have discussed, because I've talked about getting a sweeper maybe, and it seems the cost of that is prohibitive for the long term and then the maintenance. So we have been discussing annual sweepings, like of the gutters and the things. So we're just trying to figure out what the best time is. So you can be thinking about that. I mean, I guess we've been thinking, when would we do that? Like in the spring? Because we don't want to encourage everybody to like drag stuff to the
No.
curb, which people will do. You know how they are. So we're trying to figure out the best timing and we were thinking maybe after the winter to clean up all the extra salt, start fresh before the season starts. But, or is it before all the helicopters fall, or is it after? So just to give you guys a heads
Is
up.
there a composting program in place that we could be tapping into with respect to composting leaves like on a
Everything that we pick
quarterly?
up runs up to Howard County.
Yes.
But as far as our own, no.
That's what I meant. Yeah.
They
I'm
do
just-
use it. They use it.
Right, but I just think that there would be an incentive there for residents to, bagging leaves is a tedious job, and I think that many of them end up in our storm drains because it's a pain in the tuchus. So if there were a means for a resident to have them removed during the high season of leaf clutter and litter, I don't know, but if there's a lot of.
Well, that
kids
might be
involved
something to
with
explore.
machines.
I mean, that might be something to explore if we can get a third party to maybe look at and see what we can, if that's something to offer to people. Like, hey, you can call this, I don't know.
So this
Or I don't know if
thing
we
that's
wanna
on
get involved with
on the CIP is though, it's a $7,500 attachment to something, or it's an independent, self-driven?
No, it's just a trailer.
Okay.
Drag a tow behind,
Got it.
it pumps them up into the back of the truck.
Got it.
Almost like a big vacuum.
It is, exactly, it's a big vacuum. It's just-
So just a couple of things I wanted to touch on
Yes.
about, so the boiler, like this boiler is ancient in this house, in the townhouse, and I know we had it in FY '22, but I was thinking, is there some other way to explore a more modern heating and cooling system in that process?
Besides the
That
boiler.
might be something more for Mark. But
Yeah.
yeah, instead of the boiler and oil and,
Natural gas.
yeah, so, yeah, because there's natural gas here too, which oil and the whole antiquated system, I'm wondering if we could look at modular systems or, because this place is burning hot in the middle of winter and then it's blazing hot in summer. So if there's some way to better manage our, versus just putting 16.5 into a boiler, but that was one thing I wanted to talk about. And then, a sidewalk policy. We need to be working on a policy for sidewalk replacement.
Yeah, that's kind of gotten pushed back a couple times from council meetings.
But I almost think we need to have that ahead of I mean, I appreciate the funding model, but at the same time, there's no policy.
Well,
So-
some of that is right now, we're underway with the connectivity study. So some of that is to construct the sidewalks that are identified out of that connectivity
But
study.
more importantly, I think is a maintenance policy, because
Oh, absolutely.
that's what needs to be crafted, I think, sooner than later to.
Before we spend any money.
Yeah, and I know Al did a lot of research on that, which we probably still have available to start getting that moving forward.
Mark and I have worked extensively on that as well, so
Yeah, so if we can
it just
start.
needs to,
getting
we're
that
ready to
together.
come, we just need to get it on the agenda.
Yeah, okay,
We've been
good.
pushing
All right,
back.
hopefully, I was thinking before, the next FY year starts,
Okay.
it would be good to have that policy in place so that when the requests come in, we have the funding mechanism and we can patch it together, because everybody's been asking about that. And then the vehicle replacements, chief, man, they gone up a lot. Have they went up that much? Is that for regular cars or?
Both regular cars and SUVs. That same 36,000 figure that we had, we've been using for
Right.
anywhere from 5 to 7 years. I mean, we all know the cost of things have gone up over the last 5 years. Then you got not only the car, but the outfitting.
Yeah, well, that's what I meant, because that's just, is that just for the, that doesn't, is that included in the?
That's everything.
Okay.
The cost of the car, outfitting, as well as decaling.
Right, no, okay.
That's actually pretty reasonable.
Sorry?
That figure is pretty reasonable, 45,000.
Yeah.
If you try to go out and buy a new car yourself, you're hard pressed.
Yeah.
Now, would this be an SUV or,
The next one that we're buying is an SUV.
so this 45,000 would be the SUV all retrofitted?
Correct.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, that's not
a
bad. I
really
thought
good
it was just
price.
a car, because then we gotta dump another 8,000. It's usually like, how much is it for an outfit? I think it's
It's
5.
about anywhere from 3,000 to 5,000 for the
Yeah,
outfitting.
okay. All right, I think that was all I had questions on. Oh, and then I just wanted to, the trash truck we're anticipating replacing in 20. Which, how old's that one that we, the one we're replacing? Huh? Wow.
We're not gonna paint it green, are we?
No, we'll paint it up whatever color. White and green with the big Geico stripe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well played.
To get sponsorship.
That's what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, we thought Century was gonna come and do some stuff, but
Didn't happen, huh?
it didn't work out.
Well, we can paint Liberty on the side of it or something.
Yeah, that would be worse. Okay, and then the conservation area, so I'm just curious, where is the survey gonna
So
apply?
all throughout the, it's down the linear trail. We have a lot of conservation area off there. What Mark has noticed is that there are a lot of sheds, a lot of people who have constructed fences that are actually on our property. But what we need to do is do an actual land survey to determine where our property begins and ends, so that we can start the process of talking to those homeowners about moving back onto their property and off of ours. But we really need that information before we approach them.
Would that include the dinky track too then?
It may not.
No?
Yeah, it may not. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah. It's mostly the conservation properties that we have.
So what do you suggest on the
Survey and put
With
signage
it-
up. There's a lot of dumping that goes on all those properties too.
Right, that's what I mean. So I think that's going on the
I've
dinky
had a lot
line.
of complaints from neighbors complaining about neighbors using it, so this is what started me thinking about how can I resolve this. I've had a storm drain 2 years ago that was plugged up.
Right.
That cost us about $1,500 to clear because people dumped over the top of it, trying to hide it, so they wouldn't have to look at it.
So what are we gonna, that's what I'm saying, so what are your recommendations about the dinky line? Because that keeps coming up and coming up too, but,
We Jared and I have been working on that, trying to figure out who owns the property.
yeah.
That's still-
Nobody's claiming it.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
Right.
that'd be a great connectivity.
Well, right, yeah, but then there's all this stuff on it, so I'm thinking it's along the same lines of people have taken over it, encroached on it, and so now people say, well, you could use that for trails to trail, but we don't, there's no, yeah. All right, that was all. Thank you again, Evelyn, so much for all this and all the staff and everybody for your work on it. Rita, thank you. Okay.
You should let our election supervisors newly sworn in if they'd like to vote.
Oh, yeah, would you guys like to leave the elections? Oh, yeah, go ahead.
They might feel
You didn't
like
have to
they're
stay all night.
obligated.
I thought you were ready to go, like roll down on us, yeah. Well, see, you got some, see, one of them wanted to stay, but feel free to, thank you so much, Trevor, yeah, so if you want to leave, don't feel obligated to stay, but thanks for pointing that out. All right. All right, so that moves us on to our next item. And does anybody have comment on this item? This is 2019-15 to consider and discuss and act on the 2019 budget amendments. Okay.
There's a lot of amendments.
There, well,
Can you go over them, please?
yep.
Do we have
Those on the slideshow, Carrie?
We all have them.
Okay, all right. Okay, the first two on page one, we are borrowing from the capital reserve and paying back the capital reserve. We borrowed last year for an air conditioner, we're paying back this year. Now, we just borrowed $40,000 for the new dump truck. and that is to be paid back to the capital reserve during FY '20. The next three involve donations to the police department. The chief would like to assign those donations to, for use with the auxiliary police in the future. Two of those have occurred during FY '20. One I missed during FY '18, so I'm bringing that back out of the unrestricted funds. And the chief would like to assign that to the auxiliary police. The last one on the first page, the police department obtained a community outreach grant in the amount of $1,000, and so that is to enter that on the books. On page 2, the first amendment is revenues and expenses that have been spent so far on the FY '18 Community Legacy Grant. Excuse me. I hope I'm not catching what's going around. The next two are we've had the need of getting a few appraisals done. One was at 7306 Springfield, the old gas station property. That will be reimbursed by our Safe Routes to School grant. Excuse me. The next one, we needed to get an interior engineering drawing for 714 Sandusky Road. Number 4 on the list, we had our second and final actuarial study for the transfer of the law officers into the LEOPS retirement system. Next is circuit rider program match. During FY '18, the people did not bill us. I was hoping they had forgotten about it, but they remembered, so we need to budget for last year's bill that we did not pay. Finally, there is a consulting fee that has been discussed, and that is to put that on the books. On page 3, number 1 is for moving expenses that were approved during FY '18 but not completed until FY '19. Second on that page, we have the addition of landscaping services out by the flagpoles. That's an additional cost that we entered into as per a contract in June of 2018. Third, the police department has a member who has exceeded their allowed accrued vacation time. They got a vacation payout. Next, the police department needed to replace the security camera system for outside, and so that has been done. Next on the list is military memorial expenditures. I put revenues on the books, but we did not put any expenses on the books, and so we need to budget for the cost of the military bricks. Last on that page is the increase Christmas bonuses that you all have already discussed. On the next page, number 1 is to cover the cost over $36,000 of the new public safety vehicle in FY '19. Next is the following items we're reclassifying from capital into expense because the items were either under $5,000 or the project was completed for less than was anticipated. So the first one being, we're reclassifying the 5 radars purchased because they are under $5,000 apiece. Next is a heavy-duty trailer and salt spreader. We were able to obtain for under $5,000, so we want to reclassify the budgeted amounts for those out of capital outlay and into the public works maintenance expense section. Next on the list is tree care. The same thing, tree care maintenance is not really a capital item. It's routine maintenance. So we are pulling it out of the capital section and put it into the maintenance section. And Next on the list is sidewalks, same thing, it's a maintenance item, it's a repair, it's not a new capital asset. And finally, on the final line of that page, we have received a health insurance refund in the almost $36,000. We would like to assign that to be used towards the cost of health care in FY20.
Thanks for not getting sick, everybody. Take it easy.
Well, they're-
Except for
they're
right
making
now.
up for it already.
Yeah, oh, yeah. I meant like really sick. Stay healthy.
That's a nice refund.
On the last page, same thing, the painting of the way station came in less than what was budgeted. We'd like to move it out of capital and into maintenance. And then that has an assigned fund balance with it. We had assigned $7,000. It was completed for half. So we want to release the remaining amount of the assigned fund balance back into the unrestricted funds. And the last three are the same kind of idea. We have assigned fund balances that we don't find a need for any longer. One being the 4th of July fireworks funds.
Still counting on that. The commissioner's here, so we're trying to get into South Carroll, but told her to take the money out for now. We need a South Carroll fireworks show.
I agree. And Lexington Run Sediment Pond, that is remaining monies from where we put some fencing up around Lexington Run, and that's the remaining amount. We would like to transfer that back into the unrestricted funds. And the last one is concrete islands at Baldwin's Lot. The project is infeasible construction-wise, so we want to put that money back into the unrestricted fund balance. And that is it for tonight. And does anyone have any questions about details on any of those?
I don't, that was helpful, thank you.
It was, yep, thank you again for a good job of cleaning all that up and getting it squared away for us, so.
Can you speak to the, and if we've already discussed this and I missed it, I apologize, and just say so and I'll go back and look. The Baldwin Lot concrete islands, why is that unfeasible?
So we've spoken about, no, we have not spoken about it, council to my recollection. Internally, it's the spaces, with the current parking issues downtown.
Yeah.
Putting those in would take up way too many spaces that are pretty valuable.
So I thought we had talked about doing some fencing, as it's called, with like border almost, like.
Yeah, there was some discussion.
So that
It
wouldn't
never got
interrupt.
finalized. So,
I didn't know.
So that is accurate. I think we were just worried about the space, like,
I wasn't
it
sure
not
if
working
that's what
all
was
that.
unfeasible as
Some-
well, or.
Some fencing, say that again.
It's a HDC term for, and it actually would also maybe help with aesthetics and with our storage that's happening
Okay.
on the other end of the lot, where we had discussed doing some.
Screening.
Screening is the word, thank you.
Yes.
With an island or two at either end to provide some screening with some plantings or such.
Well, if you all want to approve with the exception of that last one,
Well, in light
we
of,
need to have further conversation on
Yeah,
this.
it's the first I've thought of it. I hadn't
Yeah.
seen that until this evening, so it's just a
And
conversation.
what I
had
noticed in
passed.
looking through it, I was like, why is this on here? It just kind of keeps moving.
Yeah.
yeah, because I think it was
and having
one
a
of those
conversation.
things that it
Part of the
all
original
happened so
plan.
fast. Do you remember any of that, Maryanne? Do you remember?
It just kind of, because we would have lost so many parking spots.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think
And
that's
it's-
probably
and
why.
it's-
But if you
Yeah.
want to hold it off until we can review it further.
I mean, I think it's worth a further conversation because I know that we had decided that we'd take up the original plan for islands
Yeah.
is not feasible because of what we just
Right.
said. But then there was conversation about some screening at one or both ends. But if that too is going to be not feasible for the same reasoning, then it is what it is. I don't.
Well, we have not had that conversation internally.
Okay.
It was just about the island, so
So
I
I
would
think
suggest
looking
holding
into-
off so we can vet that out
Agreed.
and make the right decision.
Okay.
All right, so does somebody want to make a motion then to approve the budget adjustments with the exception of removing the last item so we can have some further clarification on that one.
So moved. God bless you.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so their budget amendments are approved with the exception of that one adjustment. And again, thank you all for all that stuff. Okay, so I think that concludes our open item agenda. So now we're at council and manager comments regarding local, regional, civic, and charitable events, staff recognition, commendation of citizens, traffic issues, upcoming meetings, anything else? Town projects, awards, birthdays?
I'd just like to give another shout out. I feel like this is happening every meeting now, to the Public Works crew for the last snow event, doing a great job keeping the roads clear and being distinctly different than when you enter county roads. So congratulations. And so, yeah, really huge thanks to Derek for just having his guys together and, you know, just being on the ready throughout these things. So kudos.
I second that.
Yep.
Alexander, working and out of town, and then once I came into town, I'm like,
Did it snow?
wow. Great job.
Yeah. And then I did have one item, Debbie Shower at a Likely Story bookstore, she won a national award, so I think it's pretty impressive. It's a National Bookstore of the Year award, and she beat out a whole lot of candidates. I think it's pretty impressive for a small bookstore to be able to do that. So I did promise to do a video for her, so I think I want to remind you to help me shoot a video for her. I hope it's not too late, but just wanted to recognize that. Anything?
I've got two. One's an announcement. This Wednesday at 6 o'clock at the auditorium at Intergrace Fairhaven, there is going to be a presentation called The New Main Street Era and Opportunity. I think you all got an invite a while ago. I'm hoping everyone can make it. It will really touch on the 4-point Main Street approach. And in light of one of the comments tonight about one of the topics to bring up on March 11th about the grant for the event coordinator, I think it's really key for as many people to come out and hear what Main Street and particularly the DSC is actually about. We're not just about events. There's so much more that goes into the DSC with regard to promotion, economic development. It's not just events, and I think that might help our discussions at the March 11th meeting if everybody can come out to that and hear this presentation.
Well, the good news is Julia is scheduled to come out to that if she's not sick. I'm planning on attending. I know Aretha's planning on attending, and I don't know if anybody else is. But
I'll be there.
great. So we should have a good representation there.
6 to 8 is Wednesday at Fairhaven. And then my question is, has there been a resolution with regard to the layout for Farmers Market? Is that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yep. Has been resolved.
excellent.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
What I do want to say is the DSC and the farmers market manager were fantastic about coming in. As you guys know, one of the merchants that would have been affected did not want to be affected, and so they came in ready with a plan that wasn't going to close Oklahoma. That just kind of shifted a little bit so that they can still meet their goals and that merchant doesn't have to be negatively impacted. So it was really fantastic. It was very easy. They were very proactive in coming up with an alternative that worked for everybody. So thanks, guys.
Yep. Thank you so much for that. Anything else?
I believe that there's an anniversary. Aretha has been here for a year.
It's been a year.
Yeah, that's
Congratulations.
happy anniversary.
Thank you.
And she has
And this town baptizes people by fire, so thank you for making it.
Making it.
Yep. And I can say, my 12 years on the council, you are a breath of fresh air as town manager.
Yep.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
I will
Thank you.
second that motion.
Thank you
Yeah,
guys very much.
I agree with that, so that's.
It's been a great year. I really do appreciate your trust and your respect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, anything else?
Mr. Mayor, if I may real quick.
Yep, you sure may.
The summer MML conference this year is June 23rd through the 26th. Registration for that will be coming up here in March, so if you could please all start thinking about your calendars for that, and let me know which ones of you would like to go.
It's all election dependent.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yes.
Part of that is, yep.
Part of that is. It's the 23rd through the 26th of June.
Thanks. You should come if you can at all. It is a great opportunity to learn about how to do this job. So it is awesome, really. And there's so much to learn, network with so many other people. It's just, there's no downside. So thanks, Carrie, for bringing it up.
And then one more thing real quick, if I may. I would like to introduce you all to our intern this semester. Maria is in the audience over there. She comes to us from Liberty, and you will be seeing more of her.
Welcome. Thank you so much for, yeah, thank you. Alrighty. Oh, and then the MML dinner's coming up, right? Isn't
Yes.
that- So MML dinner's coming up, and there is a suggestion for us to bring a local high school student to that event, so it might be.
Intern.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. So, it would be a good opportunity, so,
The police department also has an intern right now as well, so maybe they can battle it out.
Great.
A chance to go.
There you go. All right,
Chance
that's
to go
good,
to
yeah.
Windsor, yeah.
Well, and I think we're gonna try to make it a consistent thing, so if you don't make the first cut, we can get them all. All right. But thank you.
I just
Okay.
have one more thing.
Yes, sir.
I just want to publicly acknowledge the 6 other guys that helped clean the roads up, if nobody mentioned
I
that.
said you and your guys.
I just wanted to make sure that they were
Yeah,
acknowledged as
it
well.
wasn't just Derek, yeah, we know that. But thank you,
Yeah.
it's a whole crew. All right, so, our closed session, the meeting is proposed to be closed pursuant to the general provisions of the annotated code of Maryland, section 3-305B, 1, to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignations, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdictions, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, and 2, to protect the privacy or reputation of individuals with respect to a matter that is not related to public business. 8, to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. 13, to comply with specific constitutional, statutory, or judicially imposed requirement that prevents public disclosure about a particular proceeding or matter. The items discussed will be are the minutes ready for the closed session? Okay, so we're
We
gonna.
don't have the time,
Yep,
so.
all right, so we're gonna take the minutes off. Legal notice of a claim, privacy, town ethics forms, privacy, town-owned property, farm and home, personnel, council accountability measures. So, we're gonna
Motion
take,
for a 5-minute recess.
we're probably gonna need 10 minutes because they gotta get cleaned up. So we'll say 10-minute recess to allow the media center to pack up. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?